Wanted to create this video to explain how I took my conversion percentage from 9% on a full stack closing role all the way to 35% in the last 15 days of the month. So for some context, I'm AK, Akank's my name, and I'm working at a B2C ROI kind of based offer over here to give an idea of the overall acquisition process. Lead kind of opt in, watches webinar, pre-recorded evergreen webinar, and around the 30-minute mark is when they get pitched. The total webinar goes for around 90 minutes, and as a full stack rep, so there are 3 of us on the team, we have 3 different types of leads. So we've got the opt-ins, which are pretty much like, think of it like your people who they registered for the workshop and they registered for the webinar, and you dial them right then and there, right? So 5 minutes into watching the webinar, they populate straight into HubSpot, and then a zap into Slack. The second type of lead is your CTA lead. That's someone who's at least watched 30 minutes and actually been pitched. And then the third one is your checkout. That is someone who's not only watched the pitch at least 30 minutes, but then has actually clicked on the call to action and has ended up on the checkout page. So clearly, they're the warmest, and then you work backwards. So as a rep, the 3 of us, our kind of workflow looks like working through the leads on Slack and directly dialing them through Alaware, outbound dialing them. That's majority of the day. And to give some context, the price point of this particular product, so we have kind of 2 products here, front end and a back end. I joined the team, just for some context, actually in the back end as a setter, which was the 7800, but now I actually moved up to the front end close over here, where now we're selling the 3K on the front end. So that's the overall context. Now in terms of, let's talk specifics. So I joined back in March, joined the team, joined the company around that. And then around mid to late June is when I actually got moved to this role. So July was my first full month. And I'm going to just zoom in. So this is just a screenshot of Looker Studios, and you can see how many leads we've been assigned for the month, how many units we've brought in. Net sales is obviously the total cash. That's new cash, recurring, minus refunds, and then conversion percentage, which is probably the most important metric in terms of looking at efficiency as opposed to like absolute production value. So first month was at 9.95%. Now, my second full month here, August, it rose to 14%, 14.3, and was on the top of the team. More specifically, from the 18th to the 31st of August, kind of that last 15 days, it actually went up to 35%. So just with a quarter of the leads was able to bring in around maybe like half the cash, if not slightly a bit more than the other reps, right? With having quarter of the lead. So what did I do to get there? There were really 3 things. So I'm gonna kind of just bop, 1, 2, 3. So the first one is understanding the market, prospect, objection. So to give a better idea, because we're in the B2C ROI based, kind of like a biz op type offer, it's very common for these type of prospects to be flooded with so many of these different programs and opportunities out there. And so one of the main objections a lot of times that they have is indecisiveness due to maybe lack of trust. That's one. A lot of times it can also be a lack of belief in themselves, in that if they do invest and they invest, maybe they don't make the right choice, that loss is what they're trying to avoid, right? Or their loss aversion is very high. So a lot of times it's kind of like the uncertainty around the ROI, the loss aversion aspect, and then mainly the trust. And so why I mentioned this first point is what I changed was I went from doing just like outbound dialing and normal calls to incorporating a lot more Google Meet calls on my throughout my sales process. So rather than just trying to outbound dial them and close them right there and there on the phone, I would actually get them onto a Google Meet. And the reason being is, number one, we actually get to interact face to face, so they see that I'm a human. But more importantly, given actually the company, the types of results that we are able to generate, and the type of results that we're able to get for our students, there's so much power that I have in just showing as opposed to telling. That's the second point that I wanted to mention, which is just me opening up the modules or the Facebook group and actually showing the types of results that we get. Now, why this actually matters for the first point is very few times will these type of prospects, especially in the biz ops space, be given a phone call right after an opt-in, showing how professional the company is, but more importantly, actually then being able to jump on a Google Meet, kind of converse with someone, a real human, go through their problems, pains, goals, and more importantly, see firsthand in live, like in live time, the type of results they can expect. That really helped me overcome any and majority of trust objections, to the point where I would have like prospects starting to get their card out even before I've like gone and actually pitched or even gone to ask for their card. I could see them like on Google Meet doing that. So that's number one. Number two, show don't tell. I guess I answered that with the first point. But yeah, if you are able to, obviously there's a lot of merit to keeping the pitch very concise, but being able to do that whilst actually, rather than just telling, if you're able to show results, it's a lot more powerful. I think the best analogy I can give is the closer you can get to actually allowing the prospect to have full exposure and a full experience to the program, kind of like a free trial, the more real it is for them, the more likely that they are to buy. So that's number two. And then the third one is trust. So a lot of times that I would notice is when I'm on the phone with them, I would get one kind of understanding or interpretation of what their financial situation is, or what they're willing to actually invest, or what they're capable and willing to do to get resourceful. But once having that actual call on Google Meet and they see the value and actually see how much more likely they are to be able to achieve success through our program, kind of coming back to that second objection of the fear of, hey, if this goes wrong, by seeing everything so visually, that is really diminished. That fear that if something's going to go wrong, obviously we can't guarantee anything here, but they feel a lot more confident. And so as a result, they become a lot more motivated to go find the money, get a lot more resourceful. And sometimes they just have the money, but it's the lack of trust that they're not willing to tell someone up front, because in the past, maybe another sales rep, whether it be a product online or a different industry altogether, they've told a sales rep what they're actually working with, and the sales rep has taken advantage. And so that's their just protective mechanism, which makes sense. And so being able to, once again, jump on calls and really kind of make that return on investment very crystal clear helps actually a lot with a prospect opening up in terms of their financial situation and their resourcefulness and willingness to make it happen. Those are the 3 points that I wanted to cover. That's how I actually skyrocketed my conversions, and yeah, that's pretty much it.